Have you ever wished you could see into the year 2025 and see how legendary Bob Dylan lives? The universe of Dylan extends far beyond music, encompassing breathtaking residences, an impressive collection of cars, and a life filled with extraordinary women. Join us as we reveal the truth about Bob Dylan's astounding wealth, lavish lifestyle, and more. Even at the age of 83, Bob Dylan remains a legend in his own right, not simply a musician. Dylan has influenced generations with his music and lyrics, and he is beloved by millions around the globe. However, notoriety, accolades, and admiration did not materialize immediately. Bob Dylan was actually completely unknown at one point. Beginning in a tiny place, he overcame obstacles, worked tirelessly, and had unwavering faith in himself on his path to stardom. Robert Allen Zimmerman, better known as Bob Dylan, came into this world in Duluth, Minnesota on May 24, 1941. Hibbing, a neighboring town, was where he spent his formative years. For young Dylan, life wasn't always peachy. He came from a poor home and his father suffered polio. But Bob had a light bulb moment even when he was a little boy. Even at an early age, he had a blossoming love for music. He would spend hours engrossed in the sounds of early rock and roll, country, and blues on the radio. Dylan performed at local events while forming multiple little bands while he was a youngster. Even though his voice was far from flawless, his performances were raw and emotionally engaging. Still, unbeknownst to everyone at the time, this young man from a little village would go on to become a legendary songwriter. Dylan departed for the University of Minnesota in 1959, but he neglected his classes in favor of performing in local coffee bars. Here, influenced by Dylan Thomas, he adopted the stage name Bob Dylan. Dylan made a daring move in 1961. He arrived in New York City by bus. He traveled there with hardly no funds. Although folk musician Woody Guthrie was unwell at the time, he hoped to meet him anyhow. In addition to meeting Guthrie, Dylan started performing at Greenwich Village small bars in New York. Many were confused by his unique manner and harsh voice at first, but then they started to hear the truth in his songs. His music dealt with genuine human experiences, including suffering and optimism. After signing with Columbia Records in 1962, Dylan put out his debut album. Its sales were low, but it made him stand out. In Bob Dylan's career, his breakthrough came with his second album, The Freewheel. Dylan became a generational icon when his songs moved and motivated young people all around the United States, including Blowing in the Wind and A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. His songs had deeper meaning, powerful poetry, that was. To the voiceless, he brought hope via his songs on racial equality, war, and societal transformation. Unlike a lot of well-known musicians, fame and immaculate appearances were unimportant to Dylan. No matter how much others expected him to grin or act a certain way, he didn't. That was his unique selling point, and it won him fans. From The Times Are A-Changing to Like a Rolling Stone, his music consistently questioned the status quo. His style evolved multiple times during the years. Dylan was a multi-genre artist who excelled in folk, rock, country, and gospel, but his words have profound meaning regardless of how they sound. Upon attaining legendary status, views from the back of the room are highly sought for. How does Bob Dylan actually spend his days? First, some interesting anecdotes about Bob Dylan's personal life. Like his music, Bob Dylan's personal life has been a web of intrigue and complexity, woven with passion, heartbreak, and mystery. Famous for his lyrical beauty and his knack for expressing the most basic human feelings, for decades, Bob's romantic relationships have captivated and intrigued people. Like his music, his love life is deep, personal, and often painful, but strong nonetheless. Echo Hellstrom was Bob's first love and the person who exposed him to many musical styles. Their romance as teenagers was short, but she had a profound impact on his work as a muse and composer. As Bob Dylan was getting his start in the music industry in the 60s, he started a serious relationship with artist Suze Rotolo. Bob saw Suze, the daughter of Communist Party USA radicals, as more than only a romantic interest. She was also an inspiration. Bob and Suze's love story is memorialized on a legendary album cover, The Free Wheel with Bob Dylan, in which they are shown strolling hand in hand through the snowy streets of New York City's Greenwich Village. The affection and profound bond they experienced in those formative years were captured in that timeless snapshot. Some of Bob's earlier love songs, such Don't Think Twice It's Alright, allegedly had Suze as an inspiration. Unfortunately, their romance did not last. Their paths split up in 1964 when Bob's fame and dedication to music were at an all-time high. Even after they broke up, Suze continued to have a significant impact on Bob's life and music. Despite its transient nature, their love would profoundly impact Dylan's emotions and imagination. After that, Dylan's tumultuous relationship with folk singer Joan Baez became one of his most talked about and idealized partnerships. Their romance started in 1961 when Bob was just starting out as an artist. Joan was so moved by Bob's music and lyrics that she asked him to join her on stage at the Newport Folk Festival. It marked the beginning of an intense and life-altering collaboration in terms of music and feelings. Nevertheless, Joan was profoundly impacted by the intricacies of their connection. It was obvious that she had a strong crush on Bob, and she admitted that she was stoned by his brilliance. However, as their relationship developed, they became increasingly exhausted by the demands of fame, their divergent perspectives, and the unrelenting scrutiny from the public eye. Their love affair had faded by 1965. Joan infamously said that Bob broke her heart. Diamonds and Rust, her achingly beautiful ballad, immortalizes the anguish of their breakup. Despite the pain, they held one another in the highest regard. Joan would come to terms with the fact that she and Bob were both naive in their early 20s and find a way to forgive Bob for the hurt he inflicted during their relationship. Despite its brief, their romance was a watershed moment in their lives, have an impact on their music for the foreseeable future. Sarah Lones, who Bob met in 1964 while working as a secretary, would later become his second wife. Although their connection was less public than Bob's earlier ones, it was no less meaningful. Sarah introduced Bob to the man who would later become his manager, and the two became fast friends. Bob wed Sarah in a little wedding in 1965. They had 4 children together. As for Sarah's kid from a prior marriage, Bob took her in as his own. As the pair appeared to be establishing a home and a future for themselves away from the spotlight. During the early 1970s, award-winning actress Sally Kirkland had a brief but highly public romance with Bob Dylan. They had a short but glamorous romance that began at a party and brought even more intrigue to Bob's already interesting life. Bob and Sarah led somewhat ordinary lives for a while. Their home was in the New York town of Woodstock, where they brought their children up in harmony. However, their marriage ultimately suffered due to the stresses of Bob's celebrity and his incessant need to express himself creatively. Their friendship had already begun to crumble by 1977 when they finally broke up. Sarah was an important role in Bob's life, particularly for the benefit of their children, and he has always spoken well of her, even after their divorce. Following their 1974 divorce, Bob and Sarah Lones, a friend and aide of rock luminaries like the Beatles, Chris O'Dell, was the object of his brief affair. Bob was able to get through a difficult period in his life with the support of their short romance. Bob wed Carolyn Dennis, a backup vocalist he had hired for tours, adding another twist to his love life. With their daughter Desiree Gabrielle Dennis Dillon, Bob and Carolyn were married in a clandestine ceremony in 1986. Secrecy was the key that unlocked the mystery of this relationship. Their marriage was shrouded in secrecy for a long time. It wasn't until Howard Soons published his biography of Bob Dylan in 2001 that information about their romance came to light. Even though Carolyn was quite involved in their lives in the 80s and 90s, she has always been very private about their family. As far as the media is concerned, rejecting the notion that Bob was an absent dad, Carolyn has defended Bob's role as a father. She elaborated on how Desiree had the option to adopt her father's surname at a later age, which she exercised. One of the most touching parts of Bob's life is his dedication to his daughter, even though people don't understand. Bob Dylan and Dana Gillespie, a British singer and actress, met paths in the early 1990s. Even before she met the famed musician, Dana had established herself as a major player in the entertainment sector, thanks to her critically praised acting career and blues recordings. Their connection was immediate, and the fact that it led to an affair is indisputable. this is still one of the most interesting parts of Bob's romantic history. Bob Dylan's penchant for luxury extends beyond the gorgeous women in his love life. In keeping with his legendary position, he is also famous for his taste in magnificent luxury residences. As a performer and nomad, Dylan is well known for his wandering lifestyle. In spite of all that's happening around him, he has managed to construct a home for himself, a sanctuary where he can relax, think, and enjoy life to the fullest. Bob Dylan has amassed a collection of lavish mansions throughout the years, each one a reflection of his individual style and taste. Even in his own residences, Dylan has always prioritized seclusion and minimalism, unaffected by his popularity. "I am not interested in the high life, the celebrity thing," he said once. "I do not envision myself as a monarch." He decorated his dwellings in a way that expressed this sentiment. The interior decor of his mansions was often subtle, despite their opulence. Dylan preferred comfortable, inviting settings, creating a cozy and intimate atmosphere in every house via the use of earthy tones and minimalist designs. The Woodstock mansion belonged to Bob Dylan, who was notable for many things. For the 1960s, Dylan's purchase price of around $80,000 was quite a bit of money. The home stood on acres of land and had a classic farmhouse layout. The home gave Dylan the tranquil haven he needed to unwind and concentrate on his music with its open rooms, wooden beams, and country charm. Here he enjoyed quality time with Sarah Lones, his first wife, and their children. Dylan, who had spent years in the limelight, finally found serenity on the West Coast. With stunning views of the Pacific Ocean, his Malibu estate is among his most opulent properties. Dylan could find refuge from the hectic famous world at the house, which was valued at roughly $10 million. The house is a stunning example of contemporary architecture, huge living areas with floor-to-ceiling windows that let in the light and the breathtaking beach views. Hibbing, Minnesota is Dylan's hometown, and he has strong ties to the area. He has amassed a number of properties throughout the state over the years, including a smaller estate that he can use as a base when he returns to his roots and visits family. Sitting on a vast tract of land, this mansion offers greater seclusion and privacy than any of his previous residences, providing an environment that is calmer and encouraging introspection. The buyer paid close to $3.5 million for this mansion, which features both classic and contemporary architecture. In contrast to Dylan's seaside estates, this property is firmly rooted in the peaceful rural lifestyle that he treasures. This residence holds great emotional value for him because of his bond with his. This land symbolizes a journey back to his humble beginnings, which played a significant role in shaping his identity. Dylan has bought a complex in Malibu, in addition to his main house there. The supplementary property in question is an expansive mansion occupying a number of acres of land, serving as an even more opulent and secluded retreat than his initial Malibu mansion. The property, which has a worth of almost $20 million, consists of several buildings, guest houses, and a dedicated music studio. This mansion is a perfect representation of Dylan's taste for roomy, accommodating places that inspire originality and relaxation. Additionally, Bob Dylan has a lavish Paris apartment that he bought for around $4.5 million. Located in the middle of town, this European mansion showcases Dylan's refined side. Dylan is able to fully immerse himself in the European art scene at this flat, thanks to its chic furnishings, close proximity to cultural monuments, and magnificent French windows. Dylan finds a gateway to the international music and cultural community in Paris, a city that has long been an inspiration to artists, poets, and musicians. Bob Dylan has an eye for high-end real estate that is second only to his garage full of exotic vehicles. Each one represents Bob Dylan's inimitable flair, independence, and unquestionable class. Not only did he have a revolutionary effect on music, but one of the most famous musicians of all time also had an extraordinary and remarkable collection of cars. Like his fondness for classic music, Dylan's interest in antique cars is an expression of his individuality. An opulent and refined 1953 Rolls-Royce Silver Dawn is one of the most prized pieces in his collection. This one-of-a-kind ride, which Dylan bought in the early 60s, represents his meteoric rise to fame. The Silver Dawn, with its graceful appearance and effortless operation, was supposedly constantly by his side as he grew up. With its 4.6-liter inline-six engine, this Rolls-Royce isn't your average car, it's an expression of wealth and sophistication. Another example of his ostentatious wealth is the Cadillac Escalade, which stands in stark contrast to his classic cars. With its curvaceous profile and robust 6.2-liter V8 engine, the Escalade is the pinnacle of luxury SUVs. However, for Dylan, it's about more than just opulence. Classic high-performance models are also part of his portfolio. The Lamborghini Miura from 1966 is among the most famous, an automobile that typified the heyday of the supercar era. According to urban legend, Dylan was a proud owner of a Miura in the 60s, when that model represented the pinnacle of automotive engineering. During Dylan's electric phase, when he was pushing the envelope in music and style, this Lamborghini's raw power and breathtaking design probably mirrored his rebellious spirit. Dylan's varied taste is on full display in his 1965 Ford Mustang convertible. As he went from folk singer to rock star, the legendary singer had the ideal vehicle, a cherished American classic to accompany him on his journey. Every turn of the wheel of this pony car captured the energy of the 1960s, reflecting Dylan's own artistic direction shift and serving as a symbol of American automotive culture. But that's not all of his automobiles. A 1962 Ford Galaxy Country is another vehicle that Dylan owns. Was probably the driver of a roomy, powerful automobile when he was first starting off. A showpiece in Dylan's collection, the 1959 Chevrolet Corvette C1, is known for its smooth ride and big interior. It was ideal for extended travels across the country during his early touring days. The classic American vehicle embodies the youthful energy and optimism of the post-war era, just like Bob Dylan's music from the 1960s. One more classic muscle car that Dylan owns, a 1963 Chevrolet Impala SS convertible, exactly embodies the spirit of the 60s. Beyond his vehicles, Dylan's love of adventure also extended to motorcycles. His Impala was a representation of his position in the cultural scene of the time, as a musician and a symbol of the counterculture movement. The Triumph Tiger 100 motorbike from 1963, which after his infamous accident in 1966, entered rock legend. After the crash, death rumors began to circulate, and he was forced to cancel tour dates, causing him to withdraw from public view. As a symbol of his desire for speed and independence on the road, the powerful and nimble Triumph was the ideal motorcycle for Dylan's carefree nature. After seeing Bob Dylan's incredible automobile collection and lavish houses, you might be wondering how much he is worth. Get ready, because we're about to reveal the solution. The revolutionary music career that Dylan has had spanning more than 60 years is a major contributor to his estimated net worth of over $500 million in 2024. With over 125 million records sold globally, Dylan's share of the profits from his music sales, concerts, and royalties have solidified his place in music history as one of the most famous and wealthy artists of all time. However, Dylan continued. In 2020, he made a bold step by selling Universal Music Publishing Group his entire song collection for an estimated $300, $400 million. This was one of the biggest acquisitions of an artist's publishing rights ever. He became a household name all over the world after that transaction, which increased his fortune dramatically. However, Dylan's wealth is derived from more than just his songs. Dylan has been a smart investor throughout the years, spreading his revenue sources out. His passion for exclusivity and elegance is further demonstrated by his substantial real estate and art interests. A piece of real estate in the Point Dume area of Malibu cost him $105,000 in 1979. He has since amassed an enormous estate worth millions by purchasing other nearby houses, featuring a basketball court, a lagoon-style pool, and other outbuildings. The main home alone measures 6,000 square feet. In 2006, Dylan also acquired a 25-acre Scottish estate that had a massive castle measuring 18,000 square feet. Although he put the estate on the market in 2023, its worth had risen from $2.9 million when he bought it to $3.9 million. Demonstrating his skill in selecting profitable assets, Dylan possesses various talents in the visual arts, in addition to his real estate business. His works, which have been shown in prominent galleries across the world, fetch prices in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. He has become even more wealthy as a result of the millions of dollars that some of his works have sold for at auction. Dylan is now firmly established as more than simply a musician, thanks to these art purchases. A real Renaissance man, he expresses himself creatively in many different ways. That's not all Dylan can do with his business sense. His capacity to adapt and succeed in the current period is shown by his entrance into real estate and the selling of his music catalog. Even though he's 82 years old, he's still on the road. His 2023 Rough and Rowdy Ways tour sold out venues all over the world. The capacity to sell out arenas and stadiums demonstrates that Dylan is still a financial force, even though he is getting on in years. He has ensured both his financial success and his own legacy through his investments. Dylan has remained relevant in the ever-changing entertainment world by his ability to reinvent himself and capitalize on his talents. He is a symbol of artistic integrity and business savvy. Bob Dylan has maintained his position at the top of the financial ladder because to his astute commercial acumen, even though his music may have transformed the world.